Peter has guided you by matching food and wines from many countries and would like to give you a little insight into the Irish connection within the wine trade in Bordeaux. Perhaps the saying an Englishman's home is his castle should be expanded to an Irishman's home is his chateau. When you listen to what Peter says about Bordeaux, you should go and book a holiday to this area and really appreciate what this wine area has to offer.
Well, folks, this time I'm back to talk to you about Bordeaux and the Irish connection. Now, if you, like me, and enjoy wine perhaps when it's really safe to travel again, you should seriously think about a trip to Bordeaux. You'll definitely enjoy it. Without doubt, Bordeaux is considered by many as the best wine-growing region in the world, and I certainly would say a definite yes to that. Now, I've been very fortunate to have visited Bordeaux both for business and for pleasure, and stayed in a fabulous chateau. Now, while staying in the chateau in Bordeaux, I was very fortunate to discover that a fabulous character who had been in the wine business for many, many years, a character called Ted Murphy, the author of a fascinating book called The Kingdom of Wine. And this is all about the Irish connection over many years and the number of very well-known characters who moved and set up business in Bordeaux. I also discovered that while staying at the chateau, I spent some time chatting to Ted about the Irish influence within the wine trade in Bordeaux, and it was with great sadness that I only recently heard that Ted had passed away, and I have to say I was delighted to say that he very kindly, when I stayed at the chateau, he gave me a copy of his book, signed, which I will treasure for the rest of my days. Now, Ted was quite a character. He hailed from Cork and spoke with a soft tone to his voice. I asked him what prompted him, first of all, to write the book. He told me that he was intrigued to discover that even back to the 16th century, that in Ireland the principal import trade was in wine. Something else that I found out was the number of street names that are named after Irish people. In Bordeaux alone there are chateaus, street names, all bearing Irish names, and monuments with an Irish connection. Now, Ted, while talking, he mentioned names that are key in Bordeaux. Names like Hennessy of brandy fame, the Bartons of Barton and Gessier, with Thomas Barton arriving in Bordeaux in the 18th century, having moved from County Fermanagh. Other names associated with Bordeaux and having Irish connection mentioned by Ted during our chat was Lorton, Curwen, Barton, already mentioned, and indeed many, many more. One of the most recently added to the list is the name Cross. Chateau de la Ligne was purchased by Dr. Terry Cross, OBE, from Belfast. Terry purchased the chateau on St. Patrick's Day and replanted the vineyard extensively after being abandoned for many, many years. Terry has added to his portfolio recently by opening Hinch Distillery, situated on the main road from Carryduff to Ballynahinch. Guided tours of the distillery can now be booked. They both produce whiskey and gin at the distillery, and they also have recently opened an excellent restaurant on the site. At the distillery, they are offering everything from a light snack to lunch, and also facilities for weddings and corporate events. Beautiful building indeed, and I was fortunate to have had a tour. Because I was driving, I didn't actually taste the whiskey, but from those who did, they said it's absolutely superb. They do a nice range of whiskies at different price range. Well, now back to Bordeaux, and two memorable trips to visit vineyards that I had were firstly to Saint-Emilion, a World Heritage Site, without doubt, one of the most beautiful areas that I've been in for many, many years. The area is stunning indeed. To sit with a glass of Bordeaux wine over lunch with the local food influence was a treat made in heaven. While there, we decided to give ourselves a day and did the wine trail in the Medoc area. And what was amazing was the stunning shadows as you drove through little villages. You turned the corner and there was this, in the distance, one of the most beautiful shadows that you could imagine. As we drove past on our tour, we stopped at a few wineries and tasted some excellent wines and took numerous photographs. One thing I found of interest was, as we drove, the rows and rows of vines sitting in row after row, just sitting like soldiers on parade, with rose bushes growing at the end of each row, which looked absolutely stunning and very, very picturesque indeed. Now, I did make a few inquiries, and the reason for the roses being planted was intriguing, as I was informed that any insects that would attack the roses before the vines and this would have a massive help to those working in the vineyards. The whole idea of the rose bush is whether they can protect it early and avoid any problems with the vines being attacked by these insects. Now, while in the area, we also visited a winery on the outskirts of Saint-Emilion in an area called Montagne. We were hosted by a namesake of mine called Alistair Burke. Some of you may remember his father, the Reverend David Burke, who was attached to a church on the Hamilton Road in Bangor. Now, Alistair informed me that he decided a few years ago to produce a wine for the Irish market and leased some land from the family in Montagne and produced Burke's of Bordeaux. And I was fortunate enough to be involved with him at the launch at the Connemara pub in the centre of Bordeaux, opposite the town hall, which is owned by another Belfast man, Frank Jackson. Now, this pub is renowned for its fish and chips, and people will travel from near and far to taste this wonderful dish. They have open mic nights held at the pub, and these are run every week. And if you are a musical talent, this is an absolute definite for you. Now, the tourist office in Bordeaux is excellent and extremely helpful, and will advise you of the important sites to see, not just the wineries. There are some excellent places to visit around the centre of Bordeaux, which is beautifully laid out and easy to follow. Without doubt, to visit a winery and taste the wines produced in Bordeaux will give you a greater appreciation of what's actually involved in the production of these great wines. Continue matching food and wine and take a trip to Bordeaux. Trust me, you will not be disappointed.
Peter can be contacted on www.vinetodine.co.uk should you need some advice. Enjoy the wine with the food. Bon appetit.